Thank you. I'll be here all fortnight.
Borrelsword Dragon, a titan from a bygone era, a dominating game ender from the Master Rule 4 format. Nowadays, with plenty of prints and years of card releases behind it, Borrelsword isn't a face you see that often anymore. It's seen glory days and waning play. It defined the Link 4 card pool as it was, what it would become, and became the bar to surpass. Niche applications, the height of its play, and the prospect of the conditions to its return. This is what happened to Borrelsword Dragon in the TCG. Borrelsword Dragon is a Dark Dragon Link 4, played by Vrain's character Varus within their theme of dragons that are guns that are bullets that are guns that are dragons. Did you get that? At 3k attack, it needs at least 3 effect monster Link materials, and has a quick effect which swaps an attack position monster on field to defense position and gains itself an additional attack. This effect is unrespondable for the opponent, and once per turn, upon an attack you can cut the attack target's attack in half and Borrelsword gains that same amount of attack, ensuring big damage when you get rid of that first guy, and Duelist B being really upset when you hit them the second time. Oh, and it can't die by battle either. Borrelsword Dragon started seeing TCG play really soon within its release, topping in multiple regionals lists. Based on Yu-Gi-Oh! Top Deck's website, Borrelsword made its first place YCS showings in YCS's Columbus, Ohio, Mexico City, and Utrecht, in Sky Strikers, Burning Abyss Sekka, and Striker again, respectively. Striker's grind game, token making, monster robbing, and Hayate hits made Borrelsword a fantastic method to burst for game. To maintain a defense against Borrelsword, one could shift their board towards said position, defense. But under Master Rule 4, it was highly likely that you would need to make Link monsters as a necessity just to get your game plan across. There's also not much protection save battle stuff on Borrelsword, so you'll have a chance to remove it before the battle phase. You have to do it right then though, because if you see it, Duelist B doesn't intend to let you live for long, and if you make it, you're doing the same. You know it.
2 things are gonna happen in the next 90 seconds. First, second.
Gotta love Link monsters, right? Surely the greatest addition to the card pool, one that totally didn't permanently change the trajectory of multiple game mechanics, possibly for the worse. Sarcasm aside, it's just something that's been a thing in Yu-Gi-Oh! For years and it's pointless to complain about. They are just in the DNA of Yu-Gi-Oh! Like hand traps, deal with it. But I might spend the next 3 years complaining about it to no avail on social media anyway. That always gets Konami to do stuff. I like plenty of Link monsters and decks though, Borrelsword included, but it was for sure a reminder that Links made massive payoffs accessible to certain decks that realistically shouldn't have had such a thing. We're more accustomed to this playstyle now, but I can understand people wanting this banned in its prime, just like they wouldn't mind saying goodbye to access code in the present day, at the time of this recording. There was a trend in Yu-Gi-Oh! Twitter, speaking of, in the first half of 2023, in which certain creators and prominent TCG players shared extra long ban list takes with like 500 cards on them, and Borrelsword briefly came up as a card that fundamentally shouldn't be allowed to exist in these extensive regulation lists, alongside the majority of cards I like. Big blue game enders and like every Link one may be mistakes. It is with a super heavy heart that I say goodbye to Scarecrow. Rip in peace. That's what I like about him. Look at this guy. You can get cut just looking at him.
Whoa, what just happened?
While it did get worse with time, as all cards do except the ones that don't, it remained extremely playable for years. Skipping forward a bit, to 2019 and early 2020, all sorts of flavors of decks were still running Borrelsword. There's Sky Striker and Burning Abyss still, Orchist, Mech Knight, Spiral, Pendulum Magician, Invoked Stuff, Lunalite, Paleozoic, Trap Tricks, Goki, Dragon Link. If you had a way to Link climb, you were looking towards Borrelswords. This is when the fall begins. Approaching the Master Rule change of 2020, the necessity of Borrelsword would soon become lessened to decks being once again capable of performing their OTK game plans they had before they were forced to play Links. 4 material could once again take you further in all sorts of directions, with the addition of the utility now afforded by Links. But then, the Link monster with the most utility showed up. The biggest nail in the coffin. The release coming just a month after the start of the new Master Rule, Access Code Talker. There's no way to ignore how much better and applicable it is in almost every situation. Any deck that can slap a couple blue raspberries on field has an easy time just printing this guy out and popping Duelist B's Zombie World and Pluton HG, yeah, we're still talking about that, before going to game. It can be destroyed by battle, but he's so big. and doesn't really rely on basic gameplay decisions such as changing battle position, determining if it can do its job at all. You need to be using every single slot as effectively as possible, so why not play something that goes crazy and rewards you for digging through the rest of those powerful cards?
Everything makes sense.
If Access Code Talker were to be banned tomorrow, right now, it's not unreasonable to assume that Borrelsword would see a good increase in play, but it couldn't really ever reach the same level of playable that it was before, given that it's not a necessity, just under the conditions of the game. Borrelsword asks for a level of commitment an increasing amount of decks aren't willing to give for something that's not as valuable as other Link 4s, so would anything rise up to the same level of playability that Access Code Talker has, and Borrelsword used to? Probably something that doesn't exist yet, to be honest. I'm sure that this wouldn't be a return to tradition, but I could be wrong. I could see more Avramax play for sure at the same time though, but still, it's not applicable on every deck, and doesn't really do the same job. But honestly, that's really a good thing. There really shouldn't be wildly versatile game enders that are super big, that 75 to 80% or more of decks can make use of in the extra deck. Please ban access code so I'm at least forced to take a second look at the Link 4 card pool. If you're watching in the future when access code is banned, please leave me a comment hoping that it can come back. I want to hear your arguments. For now, Borrelsword is still a playable card that technically still serves its original intent, just if you're willing to make it. The amount of eyes on it have drastically fallen, but if you're not making a lot of Link guys, but you still have a lot of fodder bodies and something on the side, then you can make this to make your opponent not alive. So you can argue for Borrelsword without feeling like a complete fool in this situation. Go ahead. You have my permission. There, a little less of my opinion in there this time. Unless the estate of Revolver Ocelot wants to take me to court and end battle phase my possessions, this one should go over fine. I am working on a sick collaboration with a certain YouTuber at the moment, so be ready to see something like that, but not before maybe 1 or 2 more videos. Okay, we're done here.
If you're running a deck that can put a bunch of monsters on field, there's really no reason why you shouldn't be running this card. You can really push for some major damage.
Also, just enable so many easy OTKs.